So we're going to start by talking about this movie I saw recently called The Whale. I decided to talk about it because, you know, I think one of the, not the point, but one of the great things, well, maybe it is the point, but the point of art is to make you feel. And this movie definitely made me feel something. It's not only because I'm fat. There'll be a lot of fat jokes during this discussion probably about this movie, but there's a great Curb episode that talks about this where Jeff is blaming Larry for going to bat for this bald guy, and he's saying it's because he's bald. He's like, and you have like there's proof of like your bald preference because you have a absorbent number of bald professionals that work for you or whatever. And Larry just shoots back at him with like if he wasn't a fat guy, he would have been all over that fat guy. And it makes, speaks to something in us, we can connect. I don't know, maybe on certain levels. So the movie, I guess I'll try to, it's going to be a spoilery review. I think I'm just going to have to do like the whole thing, like say screw it, because I don't think I can really talk about it without spoiling it, or else if I do, it's going to be a really quick conversation. So screw it, I'm going to spoil it. Half of you, if anyone who even watches this isn't going to watch the movie anyway, so this is the point. So here we go. The movie kind of starts here with a little conversation that this instructor is having with his students, and the instructor is our main character, of course, played by Brendan Fraserman. As you can see, his camera's turned off, and he's just talking to them, which is going to be a big kind of like theme or important thing about the movie. He's like a teacher. This is how he pays for all of this stuff. He's like a teacher. He's a teacher, and he doesn't really have to like leave his house to do his teaching stuff, which is those who can't do teach. So, with that intro, the movie then goes on to like our first kind of scene where we really only have like 5 characters in the whole movie because this was adapted from a play, and you can really tell just kind of like how the whole movie is set and everything. So the first thing we get is Brendan Fraserman's character is doing a little exciting himself to something that he's watching, and he starts having like a heart attack or whatever, and this guy comes in who's like a what would he be? He'd be like one of those door-to-door like religious people who's trying to like convert people, and he sees Brendan Fraserman and comes in and like helps him, and while he's having this heart attack, what's gonna help him is he like tells him to start reading this essay. He starts reading this essay about Moby Dick. And this comes up a decent amount of times in the movie, but I guess the main point of the essay, even though I can't remember all of it, was basically this line from, because the essay, we find out this essay is written by his daughter, of course, that's why it's important to him, but this line about how she found she found the saddest part of the whole book was basically the chapters the author spent writing about the whale itself, describing the whale and whatever, because she felt like this was the author's way of trying to give us like a little bit of peace or something like that, or a little bit of respite from the actual the depression of like Ahab and that kind of stuff, the real thing, and like the heavy stuff. So that's why it was kind of sad, because even the author kind of recognizes that. I don't know. And as he's reading this back to him, he starts to like calm down and whatnot. And then they have a conversation. He says he's from like a certain kind of church. Brendan Fraserman's character hates that church. We find out why later. They have a little conversation, whatnot, and then he leaves. What happens next is while that's at the end of that, his Asian caretaker comes in, who's like his friend, who we find out why they're connected later, but they're friends together. She kind of like is the only reason why he's still alive. She's kind of taking care of him, even though he's got some money. She doesn't know about that. That's their kind of story arc. She tells him that his symptoms sound like congestive, like heart failure or whatever, so at the end of this, she like leaves. He gets depressed. He starts like eating, of course, because a lot of this is showing like in my opinion, a more realistic take on fat people depression. Turning to food. They did a good job showing the amounts of food being eaten, kind of looking normal to somebody of that weight, but kind of doing a good job of showing it being in extreme amounts from our perception, which I liked. But yeah, so he looks that up on Google. It shows that he does not have very much time, if that's what he actually has, which sets the whole thing in motion, but gives us our structure for kind of this whole story, which is, you don't find this out until later down the line. It's kind of one of the cooler parts about the movie, because my girlfriend while she was watching it was like, wait a second, what's going on here? Is he gonna make it? Like, because they're giving you days, and you're thinking like, oh, this is he gonna turn his life around? And we realize, oh, at a certain point, oh wait, he is gonna die. Like, there is no, realistically, right, there is no coming back from this, how much he weighs and that kind of stuff. So this is what kind of kicks off some of the stuff, because he realizes, Dunzos. And which brings us to the biggest point of the thing, I guess, is he has a daughter. So one thing we find out in the beginning scene is that he's whacking it to gay porn. Then we find out he has a daughter. And this is what gives him this whole convoluted backstory and all this pain and drama and all this stuff. So him kind of knowing that he's going to die kind of starts bribing his daughter to come, because he follows her on social media and sees that she's having problems and that kind of stuff. And so it's because someone calls her a dyke, so he feels connected to that. She comes over, and he's going to pretty much bribe her and do her homework for her, because he really wants her to graduate or whatever. And he knows that she'll never hang out with him unless she's getting paid for it. Which is kind of sad, right? You get that whole thing of I'll move my face out of the way so you can see her. There you go. It's a girl from the whatever, that stupid Netflix show. Doesn't matter. Nobody cares. So that sets up their storyline going on. And he's trying to get her to actually do something. Brendan Fraser, then we get this little scene with him. There's a door that he keeps locked, he never goes in, which is obviously very big. A lot of symbolism right there, right? Obviously, what does the door represent? Like a part of, his mind, probably, or something like that. And next scene we have is these two running into each other. So what's very interesting is she's like a complete nihilist and that kind of stuff, and I think it's a very interesting kind of take on what their characters are, like what they represent, or what they're, because I feel like they're both kind of forces in a weird way. I don't know. Like, she does a lot of acting out, which can be seen as doing a lot of bad things. Bullying kids, doing that kind of stuff, because she's doing stuff for attention. This guy, as you find out later, is kind of lying about that kind of stuff, but he's trying to be a preacher, and she just kind of it seems like she tries to hurt everyone to push them away by taking pictures of people without their permission, posting them online, and that kind of stuff. And this is his Asian lady friend. So she eventually meets this guy as well. After the first time, they have a conversation. They sit down, they talk about it, and we finally get into the backstory of Brendan Fraserman's character, his connection to this Asian lady, and the connection to the church, which is basically his. Okay, this is basically the entire story. Is that he was married to this woman, they had a kid. He's a teacher. He eventually falls in love with one of his students, who's this guy, and who is a son of a preacher of this church or whatever. So they leave, which obviously pisses off his wife and his daughter or whatever. This church excommunicates his son or whatever, which eventually makes him, the way they explain it, and it makes him depressed or whatever. He stops eating, and eventually he self-Minecrafts himself, or he takes himself out or whatever. And they blame the whole, the church for doing that, for discommunicating and whatnot. So she hates the church because of that, and she is his sister. So she understands like everything that happened. So she's friends with Brendan Fraser. She hates her dad and all that kind of stuff. And it's an interesting message I was getting from the movie, because there's a lot of themes I feel like about like kind of religion and belief as well, where this kid comes here under like kind of for all the wrong reasons, but with kind of something pure in his heart, as we find out from his story later down the line, like he's lying to about everything, but he actually does kind of believes in God. He believes in like trying to do good and stuff like that. And so so in that weird way, like he is, he's trying to do good, and kind of I think represents, as we see like how it works out with stuff, like kind of that the force of like belief, while we get like the pragmatism, because their argument they have outside is, he's trying to help him, where he's like saying like, okay, this guy's gonna die. He's definitely gonna die. They're both outside. They're both like acknowledging it, that he's definitely gonna die. And this kid's saying like, well, the chances I've been sent here at this random time to help save this guy when he was going to die then, for him just to live a little bit longer, couldn't be coincidence. So he feels like he's here to try to help him in his last days of, spiritually and that kind of stuff. And she feels in the opposite way of, because she hates all that religion, that kind of stuff, that there is nothing there to help him, and she's really the only one that can help him, because as like a nurse and stuff, she can take care of like the physical body, and she's kind of denying that aspect of, kind of I feel like in a an effort to just to deny the whole situation itself. So she tells him never to come back, which of course doesn't happen, but he doesn't like that himself. And then wait, hold on a second. I think that was because they only had that whole thing because she drugged her dad. And so because he got drugged, something happened wherein the mother got contacted. So this is like kind of like the fifth character, is his ex-wife, the mom. When she's brought into the story, because she finds like the money or whatever that her daughter's getting. And this is where more of that stuff is brought up about their backstory together, that he actually like did love her kind of, or they liked each other and that kind of stuff, and they had good times. And she said this line about like, you're only with me because you wanted a kid, kind of I guess saying that he was always gay the whole time, I guess, or something like that, or that maybe she even knew it in a little bit or something. But while my drum solo just rages on in the background. I should have taken the drum solo songs out of the backing tracks, or out of the track, the music I use in the background. I don't know why, but whatever. So as this goes on, basically this kind of ends up letting us know that where he's coming at from now, knowing like as things are getting further and further down towards the end, that his only goal now is to try to, as he says a couple times, like he wants to do one good thing with his life, and he feels like he kind of ruined everything else, which I guess I could see, like his boyfriend died, he failed up the whole marriage, destroyed himself and that kind of stuff, but he wants to do something for his daughter. An interesting thing I picked up on too was, excuse me, those aren't burps. Those are Himalayan breathing exercises I do to keep myself at maximum IQ. Anyway, something I picked up on too, because when it comes to this idea, I feel like where they toy with like the religion and that kind of stuff, about how much he hates religion, but I feel at the same time I feel like what he's also struggling with is like kind of belief. He wants to believe in something. It's not religion, but he still has this yearning to believe. And so one of the things I think is there to give us this idea of that it's being tested is the thing he wants to believe in is his daughter. And even though he sees like all this terrible stuff she's doing on social media and that kind of stuff, and how she's being treated at school, he sees it more so as she's acting out and that kind of whatnot. I don't think he ever really sees it as her actually being a bad person. He never says he thinks he's a bad person. But one of the good indicators I think we get is that he has this like plate where he feeds like the birds and that kind of stuff, and he like tries to take care of like little animals outside, and it's this little thing that gives him a little bit of joy. And as the movie's going on and getting more and more depressing and sad about this guy's life, we see that this little plate was destroyed. By who? I think one of the only characters we ever see it is his daughter. And I can see it being understandable, right? She wants to destroy something else that he is giving like love and affection towards, like, because she never got that from him, or she never felt like that, which of course could be understandable. But at the same time, it's like at this point in the movie too, it's a little bit like this guy has so little, and yet more and more keeps getting taken from him, which I think gives us back to the idea of, a little bit of hope and faith in the end of the movie. And so an interesting part about the movie as well is that during a couple parts of the movie, he's ordering, as many of us fatties do, takeout. And he gets like pizzas a couple times, and it's always the same guy. And as the movie progresses, he kind of like says more and more to this guy through the door. What I was getting from this is kind of the gay thing. I think. I mean, it could just be a human connection thing, but I thought it was more so like kind of like a meet cute thing. Like, who really wants to talk to this dude? And he's kind of like had this little like, I don't know. I thought it was kind of like this little idea of these two guys might like each other, and this was one of the final kind of steps. Was this guy kept asking like, oh, what's your name or whatever, and he never really would open up. And then around this last time, the last time in the movie he orders pizza, the guy's like waiting to see like kind of what he looks like kind of like you think maybe he was like interested in him, or like he doesn't know, but I don't know, because it's like he's always like a regular customer, so you get the idea. But anyway, so then of course he sees he's a big fat man, and kind of like gets disgusted and goes away, which leads Brendan Fraserman on a binge eating thing, which was a good scene. I thought it was a little gut wrenching, of him chugging down the pizza and like, who says we can't? None of us have been there before, but not to the point where he throws up, and then that's what he does. After that, things aren't looking too good for our friend, because I think that scene, if that scene was supposed to have that little bit of a gay thing to it, I think that scene was supposed to represent kind of the end of the idea of, I thought that was supposed to be one more thing being taken away from him. The idea of like love or relationships or any possibility of that going anywhere or with anybody at that point. Like, we all, it's weird because we all still kind of have that, always have that idea of like, love and fantasy if you're not with somebody, right? That you think like, oh, I'll meet somebody, oh, this person, something could happen and I won't have to be alone, or, and then to see that, and then to see the rejection, like the look of like, oh my god, I think that's the final breaking point of like that thing being taken away from him too, finally, of like, nope, there's no more of that you're ever going to have in your life either. No more like, love, dating, that kind of stuff. It's just gone. With that, he's doing like another class thing, and I think this is I don't know if this is the last class he does, but we'll just talk about the whole hidden teaching thing. So he tells him to like write him something honest, and he basically just does that. Just tells him just to be honest, and he reads out some things that some people wrote about like the stupid thoughts that they just had. He says like these were more important than like any of the essays. Yeah, it's kind of meaningful hooba dooba crap anyway, about like, be honest, live in the moment, that kind of stuff, which of course, is important and whatnot. So he turns on his camera, he shows him who he is, and he throws his laptop and he breaks it. It's kind of the end of that stuff. And then the end is basically the last day. He's there with the Asian lady that's taking care of him. He starts like talking like getting like weirdo out, and she's like, oh boy, this is it, pretty much you're dying now. And so the end scene of the movie is basically his daughter's there, and he is talking to her, and I mean, they do this thing that they did early in the movie about she wants him to get up and like walk, or she wanted him to get up and walk towards him without the walker to prove that like he loved her. And so at this point in the end of the movie, he gets up, while he's dying, and of course, look at that, with like the sun and stuff, very angelic. I'm sure. Oh, let me move that. Damn it! I'll put me where the fat guy is. That makes sense. So there, with the sun and everything, looking obviously very angelic, of course. So he gets up and he starts walking towards her because now he has her reading the poem or the essay that she wrote. Because he was writing her an essay that was due, and she said he was going to write her the best essay and gave her back an essay she wrote about Ahab or the Moby Dick. And so as she's reading this, he's walking towards her, and he basically just dies. I mean, what they really show is like him walking and like his feet like lift up and like show the moment that, because he talked about before that there's a moment that you can't like kind of forget of being at the beach with her and that kind of stuff. And they kind of show that, and that's the end of the movie. And it was of course sad and that kind of stuff, because basically just kind of like watching a poor thing die, or suffer and then die. There we go, right here. I can put my body out there. But man, I don't know. Did I think it was a good movie? I thought it was touching, with a lot of stuff. I felt like I had a lot to say. I like a lot of this guy's movies, but what I thought I was trying to say at the end is that deep down, I think what we're all strive for, what we all kind of want, or what would all come for us in the end, is to know or to feel like we did something good in our lives, right? Now, how do you know you ever did anything good, right? I think a lot of it is up to kind of like you believe. So one thing I didn't talk about yet, and I guess I'll bring it up now, because I think a lot of this is about his daughter, and trying to believe his daughter is good, right? And his daughter is going to be the one good thing that he does in the world. But the question is his daughter good or not? Which is, you don't know. I mean, I think they leave that door open. Like, she destroyed the bird thing. How her storyline ends with the kid who's like the religious person is, she posts a bunch of stuff about him on the internet, and because he opened up to her about that he was kicked out, or he ran away from a church because he stole money from like his family's church or something like that, and she sent his family like all this information about him to like kind of get him in trouble, and his family just ended up forgiving him and accepting him. And so the end, his storyline is he comes back and he's like, he was like thankful for it, because he was like, I'm going home actually, and so he goes home to the people who love him, because in a weird way, for him trying to do something good, kind of getting rewarded for it, even though someone, it's kind of up to you. I assume she was trying to do it for negative reasons. She wasn't trying to do it for good reasons, but I guess it's up to you. What do you want to believe? And that's the thing, is I think he, at the end there, he has faith in his daughter, right? And I think that's kind of what it boils down to, is, what's good? What do we believe in? What's gonna feel like to set us right, and in the end, and that kind of stuff, and what's really important in life. I mean, one of the weird things about the story is he kind of screws over the Asian lady, because the Asian lady, like I said, was his boyfriend's sister. She lost her brother, but he ends up saving up all this money to just give to his daughter, which makes sense, but he didn't give any to her, which she was kind of screwing herself over the whole time to take care of him. It's like, is he a good person? So I guess, is she a good person? So, unless I'm missing the point, and because the whole thing was about Ahab, the story's called The Whale, right? So I'm missing the point of the whale, right? Because, like, comparing it to what they say, her essay keeps the part that they mentioned about is like how sad it is, and about the saddest parts where they focused on the whale, which is. And I think what that is in the context of the story is kind of like the whale is his trauma and that kind of stuff, right? Like losing the boyfriend and that kind of stuff. And that the more that we focus on that is even kind of sad, because it's not focusing on Ahab, which is really even sad because he's, there, the person, like, how we use our trauma and our pain and stuff to distract us from ourselves, which is, more real, more painful than that. But I don't know. Did a great job acting. I mean, there's only like 5 characters, but good movie. Good movie. Would I recommend it? I would, if you like sad movies, or if you want to watch something that's going to make you feel something for fat people. If you're not fat, you might not feel anything. If you're anorexic, the movie might just be like, you. All right, next we're going to talk about The Last of Us. This won't be as long. I'm just going to kind of try to skim over this because McGiff and maybe watching the whole season. I never played the games, so we're going to start off with that. It's going to be a spoiler review, and I never played the games, so I'm going strictly on the show, even though I had a friend who always told me, you got to play the games, they're great, and I bet the games are great, because I bet, like when you watch the show, you're like, man, I really want to hang out and like play in this universe, but you really don't get that much of it in the show. Anyway, so let's bust into this super quick. First 2 episodes, we intro Joel right there, Pedro Pascal, the guy who's getting all the jobs recently that white men should be getting. Anyway, it's just basically intros him and Tess, which is like his domineering waifu boss, and introduce how they eventually meet Ellie, which is they're trying to get enough gas to go do something or other, or who's or what's it, to get the hell out of Dodge, or no, they want a battery for a car, so they get the hell out of there. All the deals going haywire and whatnot, and the Fireflies, we're going to get them something for something or whatever, and then there's a whole shootout, and then they give Tess and Joel Ellie for like the battery or whatnot, so they have to transport her across and they give her the whole spiel like she's immune or some bullshit like that, like, oh, this is the cure finally or something. Because I guess I should explain somewhat. It's like a zombie apocalypse story, but it's like plant zombies, so it's like fungus zombies. They explain it a little bit in the show, but actually you'd be surprised how little it actually matters in the show. So they kind of steamroll through that, which that could have been a lot longer in the show. I would have actually liked to see more of that kind of stuff with it's not the Federation, what were they called, the Fedra or whatever. I would have liked to see more kind of stuff there, because they talk about how evil they are, but basically the show does a good job showing like all the human factions kind of being poopy. The Fireflies, apparently they're supposed to be good guys. I don't know. She did a terrible job showing me that show. So anyway, they got to take her across the country. Basically, the episode 2 ends with Tess getting bit. She dies. And then it's just Joel and Ellie, and he's all like, oh, my girl died for this little thingy-majigger and whatever. So then we go to episode 3, which is the gay episode. Oh, don't worry, there's 2 of those. And this is Ron Swanson getting gay with some other dude, which was very strange. There was a quote from a director, I think it was the director, was like, oh, he tricked conservative people into watching a gay drama or something. It's like, man, you just wasted people's time, because unfortunately, unless one of those characters comes back, which I don't think they are, because they're both supposed to be dead, that whole episode was such a waste of time. Unless seeing gay people is never a waste of time to you. Which, see, people in general is usually a waste of time to me, with their clothes on at least. So it doesn't really make a difference if they're gay or not. It's just kind of pointless and stupid. Because, like, if it was just a drama between a man and a woman, too, just for, oh my god, Chance, just for, like, 40 minutes so they could get a car at the end of the episode. Like, no, still stupid, still pointless, still I don't care. Now, 2 ladies. Anyway, the next couple episodes were basically them traveling across country. A couple things happen. They meet like Black Boy and Black Dad, and I forget what really happens there, but basically, oh no, what happens there is we see more zombies. We barely see any zombies in this. We see like one or two cool ones, but like, man, the zombies were the coolest part of the show. They barely gave us any. It was such a waste because of like they got like weird fungus zombies. Like, be exploiting that. Make that the whole show. Cut, whatever. And they get across a whole country, the United States. Like a couple episodes, man. Dumb. It would take more than a couple episodes to get across the Fallout map. Come on, man. Anyway, another weird thing I noticed was that there's a lot of like weird, strong female leaders in the post-apocalypse. I mean, you think with like how when society breaks down, there's a lack of things like contraception and stuff like that. That a lot of women would end up kind of back to where we were with being pregnant lots of the times, or relegated to those kind of womanly duties. I don't know. That and post-apocalypse means if they piss off a man, the man could just kill her and get away with it. Like, there's no law, is there? Anyway, I just thought that was weird. There's a lot of strong boss ladies in this show, all over the place. And then Joel gets shot, and there's an episode with him getting all, I don't know, I'm dying. Ellie injecting drugs into his wound and having a flashback of her own gay love story, which is very strong and brave and powerful and not gay at all. Which ends in her getting bit and finding out that she's like immune or some crap like that. Then we get to the end of the season where I think this is one of the differences from the game and the show is like they show that she's immune because her mom got bit when she was giving birth and cut, I don't know, the umbilical cord at the right time or some crap like that. Like, she fought the zombie while giving birth, killed the zombie, and whatever. And that's why she's immune, which is interesting. I would have probably preferred just like a random mutation because that's way more rare and special. But, so that's why we find out that, and then that basically that last episode is a lot like what I've heard from the end of the game, which is they're kind of just having fun, walking around. You see the giraffe, and they get like kidnapped by the fireflies. And in a weird turn of events, for some reason, the fireflies, are like trying to be good guys and bad guys at the exact same time, and make both mistakes. Like, okay, so they got Joel. Like they knocked them both out for some reason somehow. They took Ellie, and they're gonna do the operation on her, try to figure out like, ooh, what's going on with her brain? We're gonna save everybody. It's gonna kill her though. And they tell Joel this, and they give him a chance to do something about it. Like, why? They're like, you know what? Okay, so this girl went all the way here with that, Tess died for, like, and this is the same lady who was there, so she knows that or whatever. She knows Tess ain't dead. Anyway, she's gonna just let him walk away with like two dudes. Well, why not just put a bullet in his brain from the first place? Like, this is again post-apocalypse. These so they're trying to make these firefly people out at the end of the show. Like, oh, they're actually good guys. No. Nobody's a good guy. They should have just shot him and been done with the whole thing. There we go. They would have been able to cut open this stupid. There we go. Next slide, please. They would have been able to cut this stupid lady's face and secure the whole zombie thing. But no, Joel. You had to do your stupid butthole shit. I don't know. I mean, I know the game ends that way, but I thought that was just stupid, just overall. Not enough zombies. Action was okay, but the end action scene too was kind of lame. Of like, would have much preferred it shot differently. The whole like quiet and him just mowing down people like with no problem. It's like, oh, look how cool and badass he is. Instead of it being like, wow, this looks like, when you see somebody play through a video game that they've played a million times and they know where everyone's going to spawn from. It doesn't look badass because they're not struggling. It looks kind of like they just know the hacks. I don't know. Didn't give me the jimmies I wanted. So he busts in there. He shoots the surgeon, which is going to be the lady's dad, who's going to kill him later with the golf club. So we all know that's going to happen. And they walk on out of there, and they have a good old happy life until the part 2 happens. I don't know. I thought the show was definitely overhyped, overrated. It was like subpar. It was It was fine. Like, I've seen better Stargate episodes. It's just that it looked great. Fine for that. That's great. Look great. Look great all you want. I want that. Everyone wants that. That's fantastic. The whale looked great. Look at that beautiful fat man. But this, I don't know, it was so cardboard. It's like, if without... Imagine without the video, without even the video game there, man, there'd be so little they would have had anything to pull. It would have just been like a cardboard cutout. But it's delicious normie bait, so I guess give it a watch if you want something that you'll averagely enjoy and you really just can't hate, I guess, so. Alright. I'm done with this shit. The Last of Us. Ugh. Oh my god, what am I doing?